The station was older than most empires. It floated at the edge of mapped space, built long before the current powers learned how to bend gravity or fold stars. Its halls were wide and cold, made to fit creatures of many shapes. Flags and light symbols of dozens of species hovered in the air, marking territory, rank, and pride. This was where wars were prevented, or approved. Humans were new here. They stood out, not because they were loud or proud, but because they tried very hard not to be noticed. Elias Rourke stood near the back of the chamber, hands clasped behind him, posture straight but relaxed. He wore the standard human envoy uniform, plain, dark, without ornaments, no glowing crests, no floating holograms, just cloth, boots, and a small emblem on his chest. Around him, aliens whispered, not with voices always. Some clicked, some pulsed color, some released chemical signals that translated into soft warnings in Elias's earpiece. Human, stay back, do not draw attention. She is present. Elias already knew. Everyone did. The alien queen had arrived. The chamber doors opened without sound, parting like liquid metal. A hush spread across the room faster than any spoken command. Conversations died. Movements slowed. Even species that did not feel fear reacted to the shift in pressure, in energy. She entered alone. She was tall, even among giants. Her form was elegant, sharp, and controlled. Her skin reflected light like polished stone, dark and smooth, marked with faint lines that glowed slowly like deep ocean currents. Her eyes were pale and unblinking, focused forward with absolute certainty. No guards followed her. She did not need them. This was the queen of the Vyrix Dominion, a ruler whose decisions had erased civilizations from star charts. A being known for logic so cold, it frightened even machines. Her species did not value mercy. They valued outcomes. Every seat near the central table emptied as if pushed away by an unseen force. Leaders shifted, bowed, or retreated, creating distance without being asked. Elias stayed where he was. Not because he was brave, because he was tired. He had crossed 12 systems, survived 2 hostile inspections, and spent weeks being told that humanity was a risk, a problem, a temporary guest. He was done reacting to every threat with visible fear. Still, when the queen's gaze passed briefly over the chamber, his pulse quickened. She moved, not toward the throne seat prepared for her, elevated and reinforced. She walked across the chamber, step by step, straight toward the human section. Every alien noticed. Elias felt the change before he saw it. The pressure in the room shifted, like gravity leaning his way. Warnings exploded in his earpiece. Move, human, step back, do not offend her, too late. The queen stopped. She turned, and she sat down, directly across from Elias Rourke. The silence became heavy. Elias did not move. He did not bow late or scramble. He met her gaze, steady but careful. His expression stayed neutral, his hands still. The queen studied him, not like a predator, not like a ruler, like a problem worth solving. Around them, panic spread quietly. Translators struggled to keep up with whispered alarms. Several alien leaders shifted seats farther away, as if proximity alone was dangerous. The session began, but no one spoke for several seconds. Finally, the speaker, a thin, many-limbed being designed for neutrality, cleared its throat sacs. "The summit is now in session," it said. "We gather to discuss stability across shared systems." Eyes kept drifting toward the queen and the human. The first topics passed slowly: trade corridors, border disputes, pirate suppression. Elias listened, offered no input. He was not supposed to speak unless asked. Humans were observers today, not decision-makers. Then the queen spoke. "Human, Her voice was calm, flat, perfectly translated. Elias raised his eyes fully. "Yes, Your Majesty." Several beings flinched at his tone. He had not added honor phrases. He had not lowered his gaze. The queen did not react. "Why do your people hide their weapons?" she asked, "when you are surrounded by enemies?" Elias considered his words. "Because this isn't a battlefield," he said. "And because if we came armed, everyone here would assume we planned to use them." Murmurs spread. The queen tilted her head slightly. "You assume perception matters more than preparedness." "I assume," Elias replied, "that trust is harder to rebuild than defenses." Silence again. The queen's eyes glowed faintly brighter. "Trust is inefficient." "Maybe," Elias said, "but it's cheaper than war." No one had ever spoken to her like this, not without dying. The queen did not kill him. Instead, she asked another question. "Your species wages frequent internal conflict," she said. "Your history is filled with wars driven by emotion. Why should you be allowed space among stable civilizations?" Elias breathed in slowly. This was the question everyone wanted answered. "Because," he said, "we learned from those wars. Slowly. Painfully. We still fail sometimes. But we don't pretend we're perfect." A sharp voice cut in from across the table. A tall avian delegate leaned forward. "Humans are unpredictable," it said. "They form attachments too easily. They react emotionally. These traits make them dangerous." The queen did not look away from Elias. "Do you deny this?" "No," Elias said. "We are emotional." Gasps. Some species interpreted admission as weakness. "We feel fear," Elias continued. "Anger, love, loyalty, that's all true." The queen's fingers tapped once against the table. "Then why have you not destroyed yourselves?" she asked. Elias paused. "Because," he said quietly, "we also feel responsibility." Something changed. It was subtle, but the queen leaned back slightly, reassessing. The session moved on, but the dynamic had shifted. Again and again, the queen directed questions toward Elias about human command structures, about civilian protection, about why humans risk soldiers to evacuate non-combatants. Each answer was simple, direct, honest. "We don't like leaving people behind. We don't always agree with orders, but we try to do what we can live with later. We protect our own. Sometimes we protect others too." Other leaders grew restless. This was not going as expected. During a recess, Elias stood and moved toward a quiet wall display. He needed a moment. The room buzzed with low communication. "You should not be here." He turned. An alien diplomat stood close, scales flickering with agitation. "She is studying you. That is not a compliment." Elias nodded. "I figured." "Her kind does not choose seats without purpose," the diplomat said. "If she favors you, others will hate you. If she destroys you, no one will stop her." "Sounds familiar," Elias said dryly. "We get that a lot." The diplomats stared. "You joke." "It helps," Elias said. Across the room, the queen watched them. When the session resumed, the queen rose. "I have observed enough," she said. "This human presence will continue." A ripple of protest followed. "She cannot decide this alone. The risk, the precedent." The queen turned her gaze on the chamber. The protests ended. She looked at Elias one last time. "You are not what they warned me about," she said. Elias inclined his head slightly. "Neither are you." For a long moment it felt like the universe held its breath. Then the queen left. Only after the doors closed did the chamber erupt into sound. Elias remained seated, heart pounding now that the danger had passed. Humans around him stared, half terrified, half amazed. "What did you do?" one whispered. Elias exhaled. I answered questions. Far away, aboard a vessel older than memory, the alien queen reviewed recordings of the session. She paused on the human's face, on his calm, his honesty, emotion, restraint, responsibility, a dangerous combination. And for the first time in many cycles, the queen of the Vyrix Dominion felt something unfamiliar: curiosity. She had chosen the human for a reason, and the galaxy was about to learn why. The next cycle began with tension that could be felt even through the station's artificial gravity. Elias Rourke woke early, long before the human delegation's rest period ended. The lights in the guest quarters slowly brightened, simulating a distant sun he could not see. He sat on the edge of the narrow bed, boots in his hands, and listened to the low hum of the station. Something had changed. Yesterday, he had been just another human observer. Today, he was a variable, a point of interest. In places like this, attention was more dangerous than any weapon. When he stepped into the corridor, he felt it immediately. Eyes followed him. Not openly, not aggressively, but carefully. Several species paused their conversations when he passed. Others altered their color patterns or postures. Word had spread. The queen had chosen him. At the central chamber, security was heavier, not human security. Others. Tall armored figures from neutral factions, their weapons visible but inactive. It was meant to look balanced. It did not feel that way. Elias took his seat with the human delegation. He kept his posture calm, his face neutral. Inside, his thoughts moved fast. Why him? He had replayed the moment in his mind all night. The queen had not reacted to fear or flattery. She had reacted to honesty. Or maybe something deeper. Something he did not fully understand yet. The chamber doors opened again. This time, the silence came faster. The alien queen entered, her presence sharp and precise. She did not look around. She already knew where everyone was. Her eyes went directly to Elias for less than a second. It was enough. She took the same seat as before, across from him. No one tried to stop her. No one dared. The speaker resumed the session, but the agenda shifted. Less talk of trade. More talk of security, stability, control. "The question before us," the speaker said, "is whether emerging species should be limited until they demonstrate long-term predictability." Everyone knew what that meant. Humans. A scaled delegate spoke first. Humans adapt too quickly. They learn enemy tactics and improve within a single conflict. This is not natural. Elias kept his eyes forward. Another voice followed. "They form emotional bonds with non-related species. This leads to irrational alliances." The queen listened without comment. Finally, she spoke. "Human." Elias met her gaze. "Yes." "Do your people believe yourselves superior?" she asked. The question was blunt, dangerous. "No," Elias said. "Some individuals do. They're usually wrong." A few translated chuckles rippled through the room before quickly dying. "What do you believe?" the queen asked. "That we're still learning," Elias said, "and that the universe is bigger than our opinions." The queen leaned forward slightly. "Your kind fears me." Elias considered that. "We respect your power," he said. "Fear comes after misunderstanding." Her eyes narrowed. "And do you misunderstand me?" Elias paused longer this time. "I think," he said slowly, "that you're used to people either fearing you or trying to use you. Neither tells you much about who they are." The chamber went still. Several delegates exchanged alarmed signals. This was close to accusation. The Queen did not interrupt. Elias continued, careful but steady. You asked hard questions yesterday, not to threaten, to understand. That's not what tyrants do. The word echoed. Tyrant. No one had ever implied the Queen was anything else. The Queen studied him in silence, long enough that the speaker shifted uncomfortably. Finally she spoke. My species eliminated misunderstanding long ago. And what did it cost you? Elias asked. The question slipped out before he could stop it. The room erupted in noise. Voices overlapping, threat signals flashing. The speaker slammed its appendage against the table. Silence! All eyes turned to the Queen. She did not stand. She did not signal guards. She raised one hand. The room froze. Answer, she said to Elias. Elias swallowed. His mouth was dry. I don't know, he said honestly. But when you remove emotion, you also remove hesitation. Hesitation is where reflection lives. The Queen leaned back slowly. You believe reflection is strength. I believe it keeps us human, Elias said. The Queen's gaze shifted briefly, distant, as if looking through memory. The session ended early. Not officially. But no one dared continue. Later, Elias was summoned. Not by the speaker, by the Queen. The message was simple: a location, a time, no guards listed, no threat language. Human advisors urged him not to go. This could be a trap, one said. Elias nodded. Or a test. Or an execution, another added. Elias put on his jacket. If she wanted me dead, I wouldn't have made it through yesterday. The chamber he was led to was smaller than expected. No throne, no banners, just a table and 2 seats. The Queen was already there. She gestured to the seat across from her. Elias sat. You are not cautious enough, she said. Neither are you, Elias replied. A pause. Explain, she said. You invited me alone, he said. If humans are dangerous, that's risky. I am not unarmed, she said. I didn't say you were, Elias said. I said it was risky. Her lips curved slightly, not a smile. Something close. You intrigue me, the Queen said. Your species should not exist. Elias raised an eyebrow. We get that feedback sometimes. Your evolution favored traits that contradict survival efficiency, she continued. Compassion. Attachment. Sacrifice.
We're bad at being alone, Elias said.
That is weakness, the Queen said. Only if you think survival is an individual sport, Elias replied. The Queen studied him again. My people believe bonds create vulnerability. They do, Elias said. But they also create reasons to stand when logic says retreat. Silence filled the room, but it was not hostile. You stayed, the Queen said, when warned to leave. I didn't want to insult you, Elias said. Or confirm the rumors. What rumors? She asked. That you destroy anything that shows fear, Elias said. And you showed none, she said. I was afraid, Elias admitted. I just didn't think it would help. The Queen stood. She walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. My species once felt as you do, she said quietly. It led to chaos. Elias stood too, but kept distance. And cutting it away solved everything? It solved survival, she said. And what did it cost? Elias asked again. She did not answer. When he returned to human quarters, the tension was worse than before. News had spread of the private meeting. Some saw opportunity, others saw disaster. Across the station, alien leaders gathered in quiet groups, exchanging plans. Fear turned into strategy, strategy into intent. The Queen was changing, and that was unacceptable. Elias lay awake later, staring at the ceiling. He felt the weight of something larger than diplomacy pressing in. He was no longer just a human. He was a symbol. And symbols attract enemies. Far from the station, in secure channels, discussions began. Containment, restrictions, preemptive action. Humanity was being measured. And for the first time, the Queen of the Viewership Dominion was not sure which side of history she would stand on. She looked again at the humans' recorded words. Reflection is where reflection lives. She did not fully understand why they stayed with her, but she knew this. The galaxy was about to make a choice. And so was she. The warning did not come through official channels. It arrived as a quiet shift in behavior. Elias noticed it first during the third cycle's opening session. The chamber was fuller than before, yet somehow colder. Delegates sat closer to their own kind. Conversations stopped when humans approached. Seats subtly moved farther away from the human section. Fear had hardened into resolve. The speaker began without ceremony. "We will address the matter of long-term risk." The words were neutral. The meaning was not. A projection appeared above the table. Star maps, timelines, charts showing expansion curves. Human expansion curves. A tall insectoid delegate spoke. Human military growth exceeds expected limits for a species of their age. Another added, their technological adaptation rate suggests future dominance. Elias listened, jaw tight. A third voice followed. Emotion-driven species become unstable under pressure. History proves this. The Queen remained silent. That silence worried everyone. Elias felt it then. This was no longer discussion. It was preparation. The speaker turned toward the Queen. "Your Majesty, your position will guide this council." All eyes followed. The Queen did not answer immediately. She looked at the projection, then at Elias. "Continue," she said. The speaker hesitated, then nodded. "The proposal is simple. Humanity's access to shared systems will be restricted. Their fleets monitored, their expansion capped." A pause. "For safety," the speaker added. Elias felt a familiar burn in his chest, not anger. Something older. The feeling of being judged by potential rather than action. He stood. Human advisors tensed, but did not stop him. This moment had been coming. "May I speak?" Elias asked. The speaker looked to the Queen. She inclined her head once. "Yes." Elias stepped forward, standing alone in the open space. He felt very small, surrounded by powers that measured time in centuries. "You're afraid of what we might become," he said, "not what we are." A low murmur spread. "You say we adapt too fast," Elias continued, "that we grow too quickly, that we feel too much." He gestured toward the projection. All true. Some delegates stiffened. Admissions were dangerous. "But you ignore something," Elias said. "Every time we expanded, we were responding to pressure. Threats, loss, survival." A scaled delegate snapped, "That does not excuse future danger." "No," Elias said calmly. "But it explains behavior." He turned slightly, addressing the chamber, not just one species. "You've all had your turning points, wars that taught you caution, losses that shaped your rules." He looked at the Queen now. "We're still in ours." The Queen's eyes did not leave him. "You want to cage us?" Elias said. "Limit us. Watch us like a problem." Silence. "That won't make us safer," he said. "It'll make us desperate." The speaker raised a limb. "You threaten—" "No," Elias said. "I warn." He took a breath. "If you isolate us, we'll survive anyway. We always have. But we'll remember who stood with us and who didn't." That landed harder than anger would have. A new voice cut in, cold, precise. "The human suggests future retaliation." The Queen spoke. "No, she said. He suggests memory. The chamber froze. She stood slowly. My people value outcomes, the Queen said, and outcomes are shaped by choice. She turned toward the council. You fear humans because they feel, because they bond. Her gaze sharpened. Those traits do not weaken them, they complicate them. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. Complication, the Queen continued, is unpredictable, and unpredictability frightens those who rule by control. A sharp protest rose. Your Majesty. She raised her hand. You asked why I sat across from the human, she said. This is why. He did not deny his nature. He did not hide it. He presented it. She looked at Elias, and he stayed. The speaker's voice trembled slightly. Are you opposing the proposal? I am questioning it, the Queen replied, publicly. The reaction was immediate. Shock rippled through the chamber. A powerful mammalian delegate stood. Your Majesty, your species built order by removing instability. Humans represent instability. Yes, the Queen said. And yet they endure. Her eyes softened just slightly. My people once believed emotion was the cause of our near extinction. We cut it away. She paused. We survived. But we stopped evolving. That confession stunned the room. We rule, she said, but we do not change. The silence was thick now. The speaker spoke carefully. Then, what do you propose? The Queen looked at Elias again. Observation, she said, not restriction. Engagement, not containment. Several delegates erupted at once. That gives them influence. That endangers us all. The Queen's voice cut through them. Fear has already endangered you. She turned fully toward Elias. Human. Yes, he said. Will your people accept scrutiny, she asked, without resentment? Elias did not answer immediately. He thought of Earth, of crowded cities, of stubborn pride. We won't like it, he said honestly, but we'll accept it if it's fair. The Queen nodded once. The speaker looked overwhelmed. This council is divided. Then let it be, the Queen said. Division is honest. The session ended without resolution. That was worse than a verdict. In the hours that followed, the station became a hive of quiet plotting. Alliances formed and fractured. Messages were sent through encrypted channels. Fear turned sharp. Some leaders saw the Queen's hesitation as weakness. Others saw opportunity. Late into the cycle, Elias received another message. Not from the Queen, from human command. The message was brief, concerned. Careful. You are becoming a focal point. Be cautious. Elias leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. Too late. Across the station, in a secured chamber sealed from the Queen's oversight, a group of delegates met without record. The Queen is compromised, one said. She hesitates, another agreed. That is unacceptable. A ruler who doubts control invites collapse. A voice from the shadows spoke. Then remove her influence. A pause. Not openly, the voice continued. Redirect the threat. Silence. Blame the humans. The plan took shape quickly. Evidence could be arranged, incidents manufactured. Fear sharpened into justification. If humanity became the enemy, the Queen's position would become untenable. Elsewhere, the Queen stood alone in her private chamber, staring out at the stars. She replayed the council's reactions. The anger, the fear. She replayed Elias's words. Desperate memory. She had ruled by certainty for longer than most species could comprehend. Yet now, certainty felt incomplete. She activated a secure channel. Monitor all discussions regarding humanity, she ordered. A pause. Especially those not meant for me, the response was immediate. As you command. The Queen closed her eyes. Change had begun. And change always came with cost. Elias felt it too, as he walked the corridor back to his quarters. He sensed movement behind him. Not pursuit. Observation. He did not turn. He did not need to. The galaxy was watching, and somewhere between fear and hope, the future was being decided. The first sign that something was wrong came as silence. Elias noticed it when he entered the main corridor outside the council chambers. The space was usually filled with movement. Delegates gliding, guards patrolling, translators humming softly. Now it felt hollow. Too ordered, too quiet. Security units stood at fixed intervals, their weapons visible. Not neutral weapons, council weapons. Elias slowed his steps. His instincts, shaped by years in uniform, whispered, danger. When a place became too controlled, it meant someone expected trouble, or had already caused it. He reached the human delegation area and found it tense. Advisors spoke in low voices. A large screen displayed fragmented reports. 2 delegations have withdrawn support, one human official said. Another is calling for an emergency vote. On what? Elias asked. The official looked at him. On immediate restrictions and sanctions. Elias closed his eyes briefly. Based on what evidence? The official hesitated. That's the problem. At that moment, the station-wide alert chimed softly. Not an alarm, but a notice of assembly. Mandatory. The council chamber filled quickly, faster than before. There was no pretense of calm now. Delegates spoke openly, voices sharp, movements aggressive. Elias felt it then. This was not debate. This was a verdict waiting to be justified. The speaker began at once. An incident has occurred. A projection flared to life above the chamber. It showed a damaged trade vessel drifting near a disputed system. The markings were clear. Human. Gasps echoed. The vessel violated restricted lanes, the speaker continued. When intercepted, it resisted inspection. 3 neutral ships were damaged. Elias stared at the image. Something felt wrong. That ship's designation, he said quietly. It doesn't match any active human fleet. A reptilian delegate snapped. You would deny evidence now? I would question it, Elias replied, because that model was decommissioned years ago. Murmurs spread. The speaker raised a limb. Regardless, the perception is clear. Humanity has acted aggressively. The Queen had not spoken yet. Elias turned his gaze to her. She sat still, eyes fixed on the projection, her expression unreadable. Your Majesty, the speaker said carefully, this incident confirms our concerns. The Queen rose. The chamber stilled. Confirm, she said, or construct. A ripple of unease moved through the delegates. You accuse the Council of fabrication, one demanded. I accuse fear of ambition, the Queen replied. An ambition of impatience. She turned to Elias. Human, did your people authorize this action? Elias met her gaze. No, he said. And we have records to prove it. Records can be altered, another delegate said. So can wreckage, Elias replied. The Queen raised her hand. Enough, she said. She faced the council fully now. I have monitored unauthorized communications among you. Shock hit the room like a wave. You moved without my knowledge, she continued. You planned without consensus. One delegate stood. We acted to preserve order. No, the Queen said coldly. You acted to preserve control. The speaker's voice hardened. Your Majesty, your attachment to this species has compromised neutrality. The word attachment hung in the air. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Do not mistake evaluation for attachment. You shield them, another delegate said. You defend them. You hesitate. Yes, the Queen said, because hesitation is how mistakes are avoided. The chamber erupted. Voices clashed. Signals flashed. Elias felt it slipping. The Queen was isolated now. They were turning on her. A sharp tone cut through the chaos. Security breach. Lights dimmed for half a second. Then everything went wrong. An explosion rocked the far side of the chamber. Not lethal, but precise. The blast shattered a support column, sending fragments across the floor. Delegates screamed or scattered. Elias moved without thinking. He grabbed a nearby human official and pulled them down behind the table. Smoke filled the air. "This is madness!" someone shouted. Security units rushed in, but not toward the blast, toward the Queen. Elias saw it clearly then. This was a coup. "Protect the Queen!" a voice cried, but it was drowned out. The Queen stood unmoving as armored figures advanced. Their weapons were not set to kill. They were set to restrain. To remove, Elias broke cover. "Stop!" he shouted. Several weapons turned toward him. He raised his hands. "This is what you planned? Blame us, then remove her? Stand down, human," a commander barked. "You were not authorized." "No," Elias said, "but I'm responsible." He stepped between the Queen and the advancing guards. Gasps echoed again. "Elias," the Queen said sharply. "Move!" "No," he said. "You stood for us. Now I stand for you." The guards hesitated, not because Elias was threatening, but because humans had done the unthinkable. They had chosen loyalty over survival. Human security units moved too, not aggressively. They formed a line behind Elias, outnumbered, outgunned. "Still standing?" "This is treason!" a delegate screamed. The Queen looked down at Elias. Something shifted in her expression, not confusion. Recognition. "Enough," she said. Her voice cut through everything. The guards froze. Systems locked. She stepped forward. "You fear loss of control," she said to the chamber. "So you manufactured fear. You tried to turn my doubt into weakness." She looked at the projection again. That ship was placed. That damage staged. She raised her hand and the projection shifted. Data overlays appearing. "My intelligence confirms it," she said. "Those responsible are in this room." Chaos erupted again, but this time it was panic. "You cannot prove—" "I already have," she replied. Silence followed. The Queen turned to Elias. "You should not have intervened." Elias lowered his hands slowly. "Probably." "Why did you—" she asked. He looked around the chamber, at the fear, at the broken trust. "Because," he said, "if we ran now, everything you believed about us would be true." The Queen held his gaze. Then she did something no one expected. She bowed her head, just slightly, to a human. "This council is suspended," she declared, effective immediately. Guards loyal to her command moved in, detaining those involved in the plot. No violence, no spectacle. Control restored. But nothing was the same. Later, in a quiet chamber far from the council floor, the Queen stood beside a wide viewport. Stars drifted slowly beyond the glass. "You endangered yourself," she said. "So did you," Elias replied. She turned to face him. "My people will question my rule." "They already were," Elias said gently. The Queen was silent for a long moment. "My species believes leaders must never doubt," she said. "But today, doubt saved me. And the Council," Elias added. "And humanity," she said. She studied him again, not as a subject, not as a variable, as an equal. "You have changed the balance," she said, "for better or worse." Elias exhaled. We tend to do that. Outside, the station slowly returned to order. Inside, something far more dangerous had begun. Trust. And trust, once formed, could not be controlled. The station was quiet, but not calm. The aftermath of the attempted coup hung like a weight in every corridor. Alarms were no longer blaring, but the air felt charged. Security patrols moved differently now, slower, more deliberate, as though waiting for something to ignite. Whispers rippled through every delegation. No one was safe. No one dared relax. Elias Rourke walked toward the central chamber, his hands loose at his sides, mind alert. The human delegation followed silently behind him, their faces tense but determined. Yesterday, they had acted to defend the Queen. Today, they would act to solidify their position, if it could be done without starting a war. When he entered the chamber, the first thing he noticed was the Queen. She stood in the middle of the room, not on her throne, not behind any barrier, but at the center, alone. Her presence was magnetic. Her eyes, pale and sharp, scanned the room as if measuring every thought and motive at once. Even the walls of the massive chamber seemed to bend slightly in her influence. "Human," she said without preamble. Her voice echoed clearly, commanding attention despite the muted hum of the station. Elias stopped. "Yes, Your Majesty. I have called this meeting for one reason," she said. "To decide the future of your species in this galaxy." A shiver ran through the remaining delegates. Many expected her to condemn humanity, to set strict limitations, or even exile them to the farthest systems. The Queen had the power to do all that without resistance. And yet, she had chosen something else. "The Council attempted to manipulate events," she continued. "They staged attacks. They sought to justify restrictions. Their actions were deceitful, dangerous, and unnecessary. You," she said, turning to Elias, "chose to act honestly, to stand when others would have fled. That is what I remember." Elias inclined his head slightly. "We did what we thought was right." "Right," the Queen said slowly. "Not safe, not efficient, not strategic, but right." She let the word hang, heavy and deliberate. "That is what sets humans apart. That is why I chose to sit across from you, and not any other species." The room went silent. Even the speaker dared not interrupt. Elias felt a mix of pride and unease. To be singled out by the most feared ruler in the galaxy was remarkable, terrifying, but also affirming. Humanity had always been underestimated, and now they were being understood. The Queen stepped closer to the human side of the chamber. "Your species demonstrates something my people lost long ago. Empathy, loyalty, reflection. You act despite fear, and yet you feel it. You form bonds that give you strength, not weakness. That is dangerous, and that is admirable." One of the remaining alien delegates, a towering figure with scaled wings, spoke, voice trembling. "Your Majesty, if you protect them, what precedent does this set? Will the Council not revolt? Will the galaxy not see humans as threats?" "They already do," the Queen replied calmly. "And they always will." "That is irrelevant. What matters is truth. And the truth is, humanity is not what they fear." She paused, turning fully to Elias. "You did not hesitate. You did not hide your nature. You showed courage, responsibility, and restraint when it counted. That is why you are alive. That is why you are standing here. And that is why I trust you." Elias met her gaze steadily. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," she replied. "Act." Her words were simple, but they carried weight. To act with humanity, not with fear or obligation. To act with conviction. Outside, the remaining council members shifted uneasily. Many were trying to regain control, to assert authority over the Queen's decision. But she had already taken action. Security units loyal to her moved to secure the chamber, removing those who had plotted against her. No unnecessary force, no bloodshed, just precise containment. Elias watched quietly, understanding that the moment they had survived yesterday had been only the first test. Today was about creating a new order, one that would recognize humanity's value rather than fear it. The Queen turned to address everyone. Let this be clear. No species will limit another without consensus. Deception and manipulation will no longer be tolerated. Humanity will not be treated as a threat based on assumptions. You may question them. You may observe, but you will not act against them in fear or arrogance. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some were shocked, others fearful. A few were genuinely impressed. Elias felt a hand on his shoulder. One of the human advisors whispered, "You did it. You survived, and you helped change things." He nodded, still focused on the Queen. "We survived together." The Queen's eyes softened, just enough that Elias noticed. Not a display of warmth, but a recognition. She was acknowledging not only his actions, but what they represented. A species that could challenge expectations without destroying itself or others. She gestured to him. "You represent humanity, yes, but more importantly, you represent choice. That is what my people have forgotten. That is why I chose you." Elias felt a strange weight lift from him. Not because the danger had passed. There were still enemies in the galaxy. But because someone powerful had seen humanity as it truly was. Someone feared them not for their flaws, but respected them for their courage to live with them. The speaker tried to speak again, but the Queen's presence was undeniable. "Enough," she said firmly. "Council dismissed. Actions will be reviewed. Humanity will not be condemned based on fear or rumor." As delegates filed out, some muttering, some glaring, the Queen turned fully to Elias once more. "Do you understand now why I chose to sit across from you?" Elias considered for a moment. "Because I did not act like everyone expected me to?" She tilted her head. "Yes. You were honest. You were steady. You acted according to principles, not pressure. Most would have bowed or fled. Most would have chosen safety over responsibility. You did not," he nodded slowly. "I acted the only way I knew how." "Good," she said. "And you will continue to act. Humanity has a role to play, not as pawns, not as tools, but as equals in shaping this galaxy." A long silence followed. Then, in the quiet hum of the station, the Queen spoke again. Softer this time. "Remember this, human. Power is not the absence of danger. Power is the courage to act despite it." Elias absorbed the words, feeling their truth deep within him. They were words he would carry not just for himself, but for every human who had ever been underestimated, judged, or dismissed. The council chambers slowly emptied, leaving only the Queen, Elias, and a handful of humans. She gestured toward the viewport, and the stars outside reflected faintly in her pale eyes. "The galaxy is changing," she said. "And so are we." Elias looked out at the stars. Endless systems, endless possibilities. The danger had not passed. Threats would rise again. But something had shifted. Humanity was no longer merely observed. They were now recognized. A species of emotion, reflection, and courage. One the galaxy would have to contend with. The Queen turned to him again. "Do you understand, Elias, what it means that I chose you?" He looked at her, steady and unwavering. "Yes," he said. "You saw the truth in us." "And the truth," she replied, "cannot be destroyed by fear." Elias exhaled. "Then we survive. Together, if necessary." A faint curve touched her lips. almost a smile, but sharper, colder, and more precise. Together, she agreed, the stars beyond the station stretched into infinity, silent witnesses to the fragile but undeniable bond forged that day. Humanity had not conquered with fire, nor had they cowered before threat. They had endured. They had acted, and in doing so, they had changed the course of an empire. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again, and neither would she. For the first time, the alien queen knew that strength could come not from cold logic, control, or fear, but from a species that chose courage, compassion, and conscience, even when every instinct told them otherwise. Elias Rourke felt it too. Not pride, not arrogance, something quieter, steadier. Responsibility. Humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer defined by rumor or fear. It was defined by action, and now, the story of humans and the alien queen had begun. The station's lights dimmed slightly, simulating dusk. The chamber was empty of others, but Elias did not feel alone. In the vast dark expanse outside, stars burned bright. Endless possibilities waited. Danger would come. Challenges would rise. But humanity, fragile, emotional, stubborn, unpredictable, had shown the galaxy something it had never seen before. Power and fear were not the same. Strength was not control. Survival was not enough. Action, choice, and courage were what made a species truly dangerous. And the Queen had chosen to see that in humans. Elias Rourke knew this was only the beginning. But for the first time, he felt confident humanity could meet whatever came next, because they had been seen, understood, and respected by the most powerful being in the galaxy. And that alone made them unstoppable.